is gold. My skin is gold. My skin is gold.
So that's it, right? This is it. This is Let's Talk.
Let's Talk.
It's Elodie's new project.
Oh my gosh, it's happening.
Can you believe it?
I
This is
can't.
Elodie Adjibly.
This is Jeremy Daniels, everybody. That's you.
If you don't know, Elodie just did a project called Black Joy. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
My wife was in it.
She was.
She is a Black Joy. I don't tell her that nearly enough for sure, but
Should.
she is. She's amazing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think you got an amazing background. A lot of people may not know, and I think it's relative to the conversation, right? As we get into this and get into your new project, Let's Talk, I think it'd be good for people to learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah, okay. Well, my name's Elodie, as you already said, and I am an African-American woman. I was born in the Ivory Coast, which is on Côte d'Ivoire, which is on the west coast of the continent of Africa. It's a continent, not a country. And I was born there. I lived there until I was 9 years old, and then I moved here to live with my dad and my stepmom, which a lot of you guys know. Names are Patrice and Katie Adjibly.
How old were you when you immigrated?
I was 9 years old.
9, okay.
Just right at that age where you are discovering who you are outside of your parents. And so I, left what I knew to come to a country that I didn't know and live with people who I didn't know. And so in a way, all three of us kind of grew up together, learning each other, and learning what it meant to live with, my father and my stepmom, and learning a new country, new language, going to school, just learning about America, and grew up in the church, started attending as soon as I, moved here. Was baptized when I was, how old was I? 15.
Wow.
I know. I won't tell you how old I am now, but let's just say it's been
a lot
while.
Younger than me.
Yeah, so I've been a disciple for 14 years, and in that, there have been a lot of ups and downs. I moved to California to kind of start new, be in a place where people didn't know me, didn't know my family's name, and just kind of figure out who I am. And in that, I learned a lot,
Wow.
that...
Where were you in California?
I was in Azusa. I went to Azusa Pacific.
Wow.
I got my degree in global studies. And there I got to live in LA for a semester. And it was there that I really saw, just God in everyday people, See how the beauty in people that looked different than I did. And in the sense that God was truly in all of us. And it was the first time that I really felt like my faith was active,
Okay.
And I got to go to Uganda and study abroad.
Wow.
And I was there for 6 months.
That was kind of is that very different than the Ivory Coast?
It's similar and different. As far as everyday life is very similar. And it was also the first time since I moved here that every day I woke up and when I went to bed, I saw people who looked like me, whether it was on the TV,
right,
billboards, media, anywhere. I wasn't constantly reminded that I was Black, and that was just a freeing thing to not have to think about constantly, know. And I went with another friend, and we were very intentional in the places that we went, really wanting to be where the locals are, eat where they are, hang out where they hang out, and not be tourists, And so I think because of that, we definitely were able to see people who look like us, and interact with people who look like us. And that was an amazing feeling.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in the Ivory Coast, that's African, so that was kind of going back to that experience for you.
Yeah.
And when you came here, that was probably a pretty big culture shock.
Yeah. And actually, Katie was the first white person I'd ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your stepmother's your first white person you've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for people watching this, that's a really big deal, right? That, you know, I've heard many people in my life go, well, I've never seen black people because they live in parts of the country or somewhere on a farm, and it's just not part of their experience. And when they come to the city, you know, the first time, first time I've seen people that weren't white.
Yeah.
And so for you, it's the reverse of that. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that can be really relevant to this project, and I think it's an amazing background for you. Not only are you African, you're a woman, you're an African-American woman, and I think, and an immigrant, right? Which I think brings a lot to this conversation that people usually don't see.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm excited. Yeah.
So thanks for having this project. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And I'm Jeremy Daniels. There's not a lot to say about me unless you want to ask me something specifically. And I'm just honored that you've asked me to do this with you.
Yeah, really, really excited to do this with you. And I wanted to have you alongside with me because being in your family group these last few months, I've seen your work, you know, when it comes to social issues and equity. And I feel like you are on our side, you know, and you are a true ally. And you've done your work, and so that was what drew me to wanting to have you, you know, do this with me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so,
I thought it was because you just laugh at me all the time.
I mean, that too.
I see you through the screen. I'm like, she's laughing. I know it's something about me, something I did.
I'm laughing with you. It's always with you.
So that's the deep parts of Elodie. Just a couple things maybe to get people to know you a little bit better. If you can meet anyone from history besides Jesus, who would you want to meet? Who would you like to have here in Let's Talk?
Ooh. Okay, so I've known about him for a long time, but just recently stumbled upon his work, which is, I feel like a hypocrite for saying this, so don't come at me, guys. But James Baldwin, I feel like I would love, just in watching his documentary, I'm Not Your Negro, like that was like powerful for me. And like, man, like I wish I knew, and I wish I had like, like I wish I knew more of his work. And so I feel like I can, you know, so he's someone that I would love.
Well, you just completed your initial project called Black Joy. Yeah. And many of us have seen it and been inspired by it. So tell us a little bit about what the project was. Tell us a little bit about that process and what it was about for you.
Yeah, I think Black Joy, if I'm being honest, was honestly a response to the first service after the murder of George Floyd.
So our first church service you had. Okay.
And in that, hearing of his death and the murder, it just broke me, you know, in a way that was very different than all the other ones that I'd heard. And coming into service, I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be heard. You know, I wanted to be comforted. But I didn't feel that, you know. I felt alone. I felt like, man, like that was the response, like really, you know. And I had attended a midweek of one of the regions, and in that midweek there was a comment.
So that was online.
Yeah,
we were already in.
Yeah,
COVID,
we were already in COVID.
It was something that we did online.
Yeah, it was an online service, and each leader spoke. You know, so we got to hear from all three leaders, and then at the end of that.
So the Seattle Church of Christ leaders, Darren and Alex and Jason and those guys. Okay.
They did something, and we ended it, and I just felt just alone, you know. And I remember going home to my parents and just having like an hour-long conversation just about everything that was going on, what was said, how I felt, how we all felt. And then I think it was like a couple weeks later, there was a midweek that was again over Zoom, and I attended it. And in that meeting, or in that midweek, a comment was made about not wanting to bring politics into the church. And, you know, as disciples, just making sure that we're not generalizing a whole group of people when talking about, you know, racism or, you know, things like that. And really focusing on having one-on-one conversations with people and stuff. And respecting different viewpoints when it came to racism. And so once that was said, I shared how that made me feel, as a Black woman. And leaving that midweek again, I just felt heartbroken of like, man, like, how is it that we're not going to talk about these issues,
Right, especially in the church.
Especially in the church,
Yeah.
Like, and these are conversations that people who look like me have to have all the time and navigate through. And it's like, I'm a Black person. I'm a disciple. And if I can't talk about it at church, where it's supposed to be a safe place, like, where am I going to have this, conversation? And I remember it was, again, about a week or so later, after having the conversation with another Black woman, and just thinking like, man, like, if I'm having these conversations, how many more are being had behind closed doors, you know? And I was driving home from work, and the idea came like, man, like, these need to be documented, like, I would love to compile, all of these stories and experiences and put it out there in the forefront, for people to see, especially for white people who don't have that opportunity, who aren't in a blended family, or who aren't in an interracial family, or who aren't in a place to be able to have those conversations just organically. And so that's kind of how that idea came up.
Have you felt that before, where you feel alone in the church, or was that something new as an experience to you?
I think before leaving for APU, no. I mean, I was new as Black. No, that's
right.
But it was going to APU and being a part of the Lighthouse ministry, and that was a very diverse community. And I remember there was another death of an unarmed Black man, and coming to service and it being talked about.
Right.
And the minister just being honest of like, man, like, I can't imagine what you guys are going through, the pain, and just, I don't know, I just felt like, wow.
Right.
That can actually, like, wait, what? We can talk about this, And it wasn't just like a one-time thing either. It was every Sunday there was something, whether it was about undocumented groups of people, or it was, about the Black community, or the Asian community. Like, that was at the forefront of this minister and this church, and this was just part of their culture. And then graduating and then coming back here and hearing of another unarmed Black man. And I remember coming to service just like, man, like, that sucks. Like, another one again? And coming to church, and it was not mentioned at all. And so, so it was, I feel like LA was like a before and an after for me.
Okay.
And so, I think, and then having Michael Burns come, I was a little skeptical about that.
So he wrote that book,
Crossing the Line.
Crossing the Line.
Yeah. And it was really exciting to have him, but again, I was like a little like, I don't know how much this is going to do.
Right.
And he came, and I think it was the first time in a long time that I felt like I was in a place where we're talking about diversity, and I wasn't being talked to about my own self.
Okay.
Yeah. And he felt like an ally, but it was, again, he came, he did his thing, he left, and there was nothing. So to answer your question of have I felt alone before, I would say yeah. But again, George Floyd's death, like, just...
Yeah, it was a catalyst for a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be more of that. So, like I said, I really appreciate this project.
Yeah.
It gives us more room to speak about these things, right?
Yeah.
And I think George Floyd's death for all of us really put us in a position, whether we were allies or not, but puts us in a position that, look, we have to have these talks. And then all the follow-ups to that, right? Breonna Taylor and Jacob Blake and everybody else before and since, right? All those things come back. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate this opportunity. So let's get cranking. So that's great. The Black Joy Project's been completed. It's had a couple public viewings,
Yeah.
right? And some small group viewings as well.
Yeah.
How have you felt about the responses to it?
It's been like amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think from the moment we got the first cut from our editor
Jack, who's here filming today.
Carla and I saw it and we were floored. You know, it was just this like small
And that's
idea.
Carla
Okoli.
Yes, we got to mention her. She was your partner on
She
this.
was my partner in crime and a lot of things. But yes, in this project. And
Crime describes her.
and I remember, you know, he sent it to us, we watched it, and I just was floored.
Right.
Because it was just a small idea. I just pitched him this like random thing, and he, you know, was able to compile the stories. And it was really important for Carla and I to have the women see it first, you know, to get their response. And so we did a couple viewings with them, and I was a wreck. I was so nervous, you know, because I'm like, I don't know how they're going to react. Are they going to like it? Or are they not? Like, are they going to have some critiques? Are they going to be like, ooh, I didn't say that, or I didn't mean that, you know, just all these things. And I remember when they all showed up, we were watching it again, Zoom, because COVID. And I just was watching their like expressions to just see if anything, like, did they like it? Like, what does that mean? You know, and stuff like that. At the end, they all loved it.
Yeah.
You know, they were able to see the vision, understand its power and its weight, and they stood behind it from day one. And once we got the approval from them, I was like, we're good, you know. And so I reached out to I reached out to a representative from each of the duos.
Which is our diversity community.
Yes, yeah. So I reached out to the North, I reached out to Lynn and Derek and showed them the video. And then on the city, I reached out to Pierre Newsome, whose wife, Jessica, was in the video. And then on the East Side, I reached out to Bruce Flaumer. And all of them have just been so encouraging, you know, to hear their feedback. And they as well understand what this video could do for the church, you know, in helping continue or even start conversations. And, but in that, I knew that there was also going to be some pushback, you know, and I wasn't surprised, but again,
what kind of pushback did you get?
So a lot of it was from the leadership, honestly. I remember one particular, I sent it out to all of them first. And then I remember having a conversation with one particular leader, and he loved the video. He just was a little hesitant with the original copy of it, you know, feeling like there were some terms and some words that...
Like Black Lives Matter, white fragility.
Yeah, and stuff. And so
privilege.
The thing that I got out of that conversation was he wanted certain things edited out, you know, and stuff. And so I think what was really good for me was that I had a lot of people behind me that understood this project and understood what it could be. And so I remember leaving one of those conversations with the leader where he mentioned, he said, if you want the backing of the church for this project, then there's some things that need to be edited out. And I left that just feeling like devastated, you know, like, man, like Carla and I and all these women worked really hard and we believe in this thing. And this is something that could start the conversation that isn't happening on Sunday, you know, and so to get that response, I just was like, man, that sucks, you know. And so I called up Bruce and just kind of shared with him, hey, this is how the conversation went, this is what they said. I don't understand, like, this video, this project. I'm like, it's not that intense, you know, like, it's not that controversial. I don't get it.
So you went through some advisors on what you should do.
Yeah. And I just shared with him, I was like, I don't get the fear. I don't get why we can't just show the original, you know? And his response was, Elodie, your video is powerful. You know, like, it's very emotional, and it has the power and it has the opportunity to reveal people about themselves, you know? And it was after that conversation, I was like, you know what? Yeah, this video needs to be seen. So whatever I need to do, if I need to edit something out, then so be it. But, and that, I feel like that's when, like, the real, like, okay, the real work starts of making sure that this video gets out. And it did.
Well, thank you for making sure it got
Yeah.
out. It's pretty awesome. For the people who haven't seen it, I hope one day you'll put it out on
Yeah.
YouTube or something,
Yes,
and people can
yeah.
just watch it.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff with the Black Joy Project we've talked about. We've talked about your process, kind of what led you to it, and you know, what are some of the at-large responses that you've gotten outside of the leadership and from the people that were involved in it?
Yeah, I got one actually recently that she reached out and said how in her 24 plus years of being a disciple, she has never had the space to talk about, you know, what it means to be Black, and especially in church, and that it was always seen as political, you know. And I've gotten, wow, this is amazing. Like, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that my sisters went through that. Or, like, I didn't know that this is what, you know, this person felt. Or I didn't know that I couldn't touch a Black person's hair, you know, or that was a microaggression and stuff like that. So it's a lot of awareness.
I get that a lot. Can I touch your hair?
Oh, you do?
All the time. People,
That salt and pepper hair.
never have had somebody do that.
Yeah, so it's just been a lot of awareness. And I think that's part of why I wanted to do this. You know, in one question, how diverse the answers were. And to show that there's a lot of different answers and a lot of different views of people in the Black community. You know, we don't have one answer for everything.
You're not a monolithic group.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also something that's very surprising to people, you know.
You don't all think the same.
Yeah.
You don't all like the same things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
sure?
one thing that offends me.
Do you know this person?
Exactly, yeah. Like one thing that offends me isn't going to offend someone else. And in having these conversations, something that's rung true is I tell people, like, it's okay to be uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you just have to be okay as a white person to be uncomfortable in having these conversations with, you know, a Black person, you know, and that going into it knowing that you may offend them, but still going with that, you know, and not letting the uncomfortableness, like, scare you off.
Yeah, dictate your actions. Yeah.
From, like, interacting with them, you know. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So have you, from people like me, are there any negative responses that you've had, or have you found most of those responses to be people who look like me, be supportive? What's been that reaction? Yeah,
it's been super supportive. I think I've gotten like an equal amount of, oh, I saw this, and then I went back and had a conversation with so-and-so because of an interaction that I had, that, you know, and so it's been amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was my vision. You know, I said that in the video, that my hope is that this video is a catalyst that starts these conversations. And I feel like it's doing that, you know.
Awesome. Well, it takes a brave person to put themselves out there to do it. So I've appreciated it.
Thank you.
It's been very encouraging.
Thanks.
So as you get into this new project that we're calling Let's Talk. So as you get in, what's kind of the impetus? What's spurring you on to this next project?
Yeah. So kind of how I got the inspiration for this one was, it was around the time that Black Joy was in the thick of it, where I was like, I don't know if this project is going to see the light of day. You know, I was just having a lot of tough conversations, a lot of pushback, and going back and forth with leadership and duo and all that stuff. And I stumbled upon this video called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man.
Oh, yes.
I've been talking about this dude since, you know, day one. And his name is Emmanuel Acho. And it's just a space and a forum for people to have uncomfortable conversations, you know, and even referring to someone by their color of their skin is sometimes like nerve-wracking for people, you know, to like describe someone as Black, you
Right.
know.
Oh, that's a black man.
Exactly. Yeah. And so even in the title, he just jumps right in.
Like, no, you can't say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
am, though.
I'm like,
Hello.
it's a lot easier to just, and then oh, that person got it. And so, so I watched it, and it just was, just this space for people to just have courageous conversations.
That's awesome.
And ask questions. And it wasn't a debate, it wasn't an argument. It just was, this is me, and let's talk, you know? And so I watched that, and I was like, wow, that's so powerful, to have a place like that. And so, like I said, like Black Joy, I just was like, I don't know if this project is going to come to fruition. I don't know who's going to see it. And then August 24th, I was finishing up work, and I had accidentally clicked on a video, and it happened to be the Jacob Blake shooting. This black man that was shot 7 times in the back. Yeah. And that, again, brought me back to George Floyd. Yeah. Just heartbroken.
Yeah. How can you not be?
And I'm like,
unbelievable.
Just like, did we not learn, Did we not learn from Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin? Like, did we not learn from George Floyd, know? Or even Breonna Taylor, who we just, found out a couple days ago that, 2 out of the 3 weren't charged, and the other one was charged for pretty much just causing a disturbance, And I remember, I was going home on the bus, just feeling devastated and just worthless. And I remember I texted Denise.
You're not worthless.
Thank you. I remember texting Denise, Derek, and Terry. I said, why do they not care for us? We are being eliminated by a system that is meant to protect all. Why? Like, why do they hate us so much? That even after George Floyd, Yeah. That there's another one. And another one. And another one. And then I thought back to Darren Overstreet's lesson the day before, where he talked about loving mercy and showing humility and justice. And I just straight up called him. I was like, hey, I am feeling a lot right now. Right. And I want to ask, like, as a Black woman, how do I show mercy? How do I show humility? How do I show justice to a system and to people who are actively killing people who look like me? And based on your lesson from the day before, how do I do that? And why has it taken the church so long to have this conversation about race? And why is this so hard for you and for all of you guys to talk about it, And I just was like, I need practicals because, I pray, I read. And when George Floyd's murder happened, there was this aura of just darkness around me for a long time. To a point where it kind of scared me too, My parents talked to me about it. My friends were, worried about me.
You have 2 younger brothers.
Reed was worried about me. And I was like, I was told also during that period that I needed to have a spiritual mindset. And for me, I was like, I don't know what that means. Right. Sure. I don't know what that means. And the part of doing Black Joy, it really healed me. It really, really helped me through that whole process. Sure. And so when I was talking to Darren, I asked him, I was like, I was told I needed to have a spiritual mindset, in my sorrow and in my mourning and in my grief and heartbreak and all that. I'm asking you, how do I do that? Per your lesson as a Black woman. Right. How do I do that? And so so I left that conversation and I just was like, man, like, this is my next project.
And it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. So what's your overall hope? What's the goal? Or obviously the audience could be people in the Christian church. It could be people beyond that, right? I mean, this is really about getting a conversation going. at a larger scale. What is your hope for it?
Yeah. I think my hope is, again, like what Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man did for me. That's what I hope that this is. A forum for people to come, tune in, and take back something that they got out of it. Whether it was something that they didn't know before, a new thing, or just an opportunity for them to step into that courageousness and have those conversations,
Awesome.
you know, and take it back to their dining room table while they're at dinner. Hey, let's talk about, you know, like there was this question that was posed, what do you guys think, you know,
Right.
and or take it to work or on their walk or wherever, you know. I really want this project to feel like these conversations could happen anywhere.
Yeah,
You know?
we should have them all the time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Hopefully one day we won't. I mean, hopefully one
Right,
day.
yeah. And, you know, you say that like it's, for a lot of us, we have it, you
Yeah,
know, all the time.
all the time.
And even in the video in Black Joy, you see that with Layla and Zaria, they're very young. And they could probably tell you stories that would bring you to tears of their experience of being, you know, Black children.
Wow.
And I think of Xavier, Judea, my brothers. I mean, it's crazy that, like, for people of color, from day one, like, these are conversations that our parents have to have with us, conversations that we have to have with our friends. We see it all the time. And so my hope is that this video will inspire people to just step forward and have those conversations with people and with each
Awesome.
other.
So just one last question here. You know, as we look kind of bigger into this, what do you think, what kind of steps do you think need to be taken socially, or even if we just said within the Christian church, what kinds of things do you think need to happen for us to have some real substantive change?
Yeah.
That we really see that?
Yeah. I remember talking to one of the leaders and he asked me that. He asked me, you know, you've done this video. What would you like from us, leadership? And it took me a while. It kind of took me back. And I said, get in the mud with me. You know, be willing to get in there. You know, it's not going to be a great conversation. You know, it's not going to be polished.
Right.
But I think part of it is also acknowledging that there is a problem. You know, acknowledging that there are people in the congregation that are hurt in a real way, in a way that is, I don't know, like tangible, and it goes beyond just a, hey, how are you doing? You know, and yeah, I feel like those are the two things: is acknowledging that there's a problem, you know, that racism is real, you know, that Black lives do matter, you
Amen.
know, and yeah, those are terms that were coined by the world, but they're very much real, you know, and then be willing to just get messy and figure it out. Yeah, and
I agree. I think not only in the Christian church, but beyond that, right?
Yeah.
At a social level, a political level, people can't keep denying that these things are real, right? That this is really going on in our country, and, you know, we can't keep trying to sweep that under the rug, that this is a real thing. We've got to get down and get dirty in it, and if we're willing to do that, then we can bring about change. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate this conversation. Hopefully you're encouraged. I hope all the people watching are encouraged by it. I know I am. I'm extremely touched that you asked me to be a part of it. And also Black Joy, I mean, you knocked it out of the park. All those women on there. It was an incredible video. And I know, having a Black son, he's very encouraged by that. And I know your family, same thing, right? I know that they're all very encouraged. So we're proud of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for kicking this Let's Talk off on having a new project.
Yes, let's talk.
I love you.
I love you too.
It's going to be awesome.
My skin is gold. My skin is gold. My skin is gold. And when I look in that mirror, I don't care what I'm told. No, my brothers and my sisters were gold.
Yeah, listen,